Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Omnipresent Information Connection. My name is Noah Hansen, here with Kevin Peterson today. Are you excited and ready for this podcast today, Kevin?
Yes, I'm excited, exuberant, and enthusiastic about the word, about what we're going to be speaking about today.
And I am as well. Last podcast, we talked about mental management and having control over your own mental faculties is key and important in being able to stay on the right track. Today's podcast is all about being the example setter that your soul yearns for you to become. It's all about a soul-filled personal leadership and doing what's right and daily habits that you can apply leading to your own prosperity. Sound exciting to you, Kevin?
Yes, very exciting.
Sounds exciting to me too, so let's get started, Kevin. What does it take to be the example setter that your soul yearns to become?
To be able to do anything in life in a purified way. To be able to do it with wholeness and completion of character in mind.
And how do you know what your soul yearns for you to become?
Because your body and your mind communicate and literally allows you, the person, to be able to really feel, to be able to really resonate and really yearn for wanting to be whatever it is that you can't seem to get out of your mind. You can't seem to get out of your heart. Can't seem to get out of your soul. It is something that's so strong within you that it literally guides you to that final destiny, whatever that is.
What I hear you saying, Kevin, is that what your soul yearns to become can be felt physically, but it's a mental and physical connection. It's an intertwining of those two. It's a connection between your mind and your body. So it has to do with intuition. Intuition has a role to play here because intuition, as we talked about in the Destiny, Fate, and Heart-Brain Intuition podcast, is something that can be seen in a reflection physically in our bodies. In our physical bodies, we can see intuition being exemplified, especially in our heart. So it's got to be connected to intuition somehow. Ancestrally, one of the prominent teachings in the Bible is that the flesh is at war with the spirit. The flesh is at war with the soul inside of you, but the soul's intertwined with the body for the time that we are in this vessel here in the physical, here on earth. So our body is going to try to deceive us or try to take us away from a soul connection. And what I'm getting at here is when you have a yearning in your soul, when your soul yearns for you to become something, which I believe it always does, we're always learning, we're always growing, and our soul is very natural in keeping up with that growth if you're in touch with your soul. But your body is going to constantly be telling you that you can fill that void of yearning that your soul is reflecting in your physical body. It's going to try to tell you that you can fill that with something else to get a temporary fix so that you feel comfortable and you don't have that, you can kind of hush up that yearning for a short time or temporary period of time. But you're always going to go back to a yearning, which is why, for example, if you make a lot of money but you don't have a soul connection, you're not in harmony with your soul, then you can still feel that yearning even though all of your physical needs are being met. But there's much more than physical needs at play here. What your soul yearns for you to become is much more than just having your needs met. It has a lot to do with connection with other people. It has a lot to do with connection to a higher power, to God. If you are lacking that connection, then your physical health can be on par. Your emotional health may even be on par. But your spiritual health is going to leave that yearning in your soul. You're not on the path that's going to fill that void of spiritual health in your life.
Absolutely. And so in order to be able to be on track, in order to be able to know which pathway you need to go on, you need to be able to have honest communication with your desires so your outcomes become a three-part harmony unit of being able to think, to be able to do, and then to be able to resonate out from you the end goal through effort, right?
Yes. Yep. Applying that effort and having a firm grip on your own body.
Yes. And so here are some positive habits that will immediately make your life better. Keep your first promise of the day. And what I mean by that is that when we are going back to the journaling podcast, is that you want to be able to set a positive intention for your day.
Yeah.
So whatever promises it is or was that really motivated you to be able to get up and to be able to get dressed and get ready for the day, you need to then be able to keep your first promises of the day and fulfill them as quickly as you can.
Yes, and a great way to do this is simply to make your bed in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Second thing is dress for success. It's all common sense, right?
Yep.
The more you look good, the more you feel good, the more you are good, right?
That's right. Hygiene.
And then you need to have meditative moments throughout your day to where you give yourself a positive training timeout. These meditative thoughts are nothing more, nothing less than taking a deep breath, mindfully be aware of what goal, dream, desire, or physical outcome you're wanting to obtain. And then physically, you are telling your mind that you can physically do it, and you start to be able to manifest things in a new way each and every time that you do this.
Yeah. Yep. And when you do this, it can fulfill all your physical needs like we're talking about. But give us an example, Kevin, of fulfilling a soul yearning, what that would look like when you wake up in the morning.
A soul yearning to be, there's 5 elements: to be liked, loved, valued, appreciated, and respected.
Mm-hmm.
These 5 life elements are things that you can't escape from. So if you can be able to write down what you like, what you love, what you value, what you appreciate, and what you respect most, and then reaffirm them through positive outward communication to yourself, because these are positive thoughts, become positive words, then become outwardly spoken, so that your ears can be able to hear what your mind and your body are trying to create.
Yeah, it's a practice of expression to get you more in touch with what you actually are trying to connect with in the world.
Mm-hmm. And so when you have positive talk that's constantly going out of your own mouth, it's hard to be negative. It's hard to be derogatory. It's hard to be able to be, oh, woe is me, oh, this or oh, that, I'm, pretty pathetic, whatever, right? Types of mindset, right?
Yeah, well, self-bashing, basically.
Yeah, self-bashing, right? And so you remove the self-bashing by using the positive self-talk. And if you do it long enough, you will be able to, just like a TV program, is reprogram your mind to be able to think differently, for you to then be able to act differently, for those things naturally that you're wanting to receive in life to manifest naturally as well.
Yeah, what you're talking about here, Kevin, does have a title, and it's something that I learned about when I became a life coach. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's of course not the end-all be-all, solve all your problems title here, but it is a great step in the right direction to be able to get you on the right track. It's very simply just replacing bad habits with good habits. It's also something that I practiced and I was trained to do when I worked with children, specifically children on the autism spectrum, which was a completely life-enriching experience, by the way. So CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, isn't just meant for people on the autism spectrum. It's also meant for literally anyone who could be going through a thorn in their life or something holding them down in life, not allowing them to reach their highest potential.
Correct. So to be able to bring this full circle is that you want to be able to get up in the morning and you want to cover these 5 elements: to be able to be liked, loved, valued, appreciated, and respected but make sure it's by you first.
Yeah.
And so find 5 positive things within those 5 elements, and that will kickstart your day in a new way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you wanted to get creative with this, those 5 are a great outline, a great start. I think they cover many areas that need to be covered when waking up and starting the day off in a positive way. It's like those 5 really hit the mark there. But if you want to add some more in, if you want to, if you have any inspirations that you that come to you while you're doing this practice, then feel free by all means to adjust and alter this practice to be able to fit your personal life journey.
Absolutely. So now we come to the afternoon of the day, to where we take lunch.
Okay.
Now find 5 other things that you like, love, value, appreciate, and respect about who you are while you're eating.
Yeah.
When you do this, you're doubling up your positive output of self-talk, of positive self-talk, to be able to manifest into flesh those things that are most important to you to be able to have as an outcome. So even if your daily goal is to be able to have a great day, you've now covered the morning, you've now covered the afternoon, to be able to double down on being able to get yourself to that conclusion of the end of the day to have a great day, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So from there, what you need to be able to do is that no matter what business you're in, no matter what you do, is that you need to be able to take a quick little breather from time to time to be able to remind yourself of these things that you have now either written down or you have put into your electronic notes, or things that you have wanted to be able to accomplish through any means that you can remember, right?
Yes, I love setting reminders on my phone.
That's one technique.
Yep.
What's another?
Well, if you have it within you to be able to reflect back on what you've already written down into a small note journal or some type of journal, personal journal, then that's great to be able to look at what you actually hand wrote. That reflection, some people have difficulty. It's true. People have difficulty looking back on what they past wrote. This is something I've been guilty of. And it's something that if you have struggles with that, is having a notification pop up right on your phone that you can't really avoid by putting it on a bookshelf really has been helpful in my life. But that being said, the reflection back on your past notes is important in being the example setter, because you're constantly allowing yourself to marinate and resonate with what you've already expressed as positive blessings in your life. And that will allow you, therefore, to move forward with a renewed energy, with seeing how that has reflected in your day. If you have acted on that love for those things, if you haven't acted on that love for those things, you'll be convicted to do more, and it'll turn you into a positive example setter in just a short manner of time if you stay with this type of practice.
Right. More importantly, if you take a gentle walk and a deep dive into this practice, it naturally teaches you self-developed leadership.
There you go.
And as a leader, you start being able to think differently. You start acting differently. You start doing things differently, even if you're not in that role in a work-related environment. You are starting to become in that role in your personal development of your life.
Right. Kevin, let me ask you a question.
Yes, Noah.
People all the time tend to act differently, behave differently when they are in leadership positions. If you're bumped up to a manager, you tend to act differently with the added responsibility of the people you're supervising. If you have been assigned a babysitter's position, then you'll act differently, you'll behave differently to be able to keep those kids safe. Is it a positive thing when you're changing your behavior if you're put in leadership roles? Or would it rather be more beneficial to always have it in mind that you are the example setter, even when you're behind closed doors?
At work, since it's a just over broke opportunity anyway, no one has ever gotten wealthy and have retired from a just over broke opportunity because they have to wait till retirement to receive it. So with that in mind is that you start to realize that you are doing this for you. And as a result, it naturally becomes you. And then the law of the land then says if other people can see it in you as well, they self-promote you to that position without you necessarily needing to be able to put in your resume to become it, right?
That's right. So that's kind of what I was getting at. Yeah, perfect. Because if you were someone who is not responsible around children, no one's going to see it within you to be able to assign you that babysitter's position, that babysitter role. If you aren't responsible in the workplace as, someone flipping burgers, you're not going to get that extra responsibility of being bumped up to manager position. That's a just over broke opportunity scenario. But apply that to having responsibility over your relationships in life, over your own positive outcomes, your own prosperity in life, your own self-driven career, what you do artistically, all these things and how they affect everyone else that may be affected now or in the future. That's a lot of responsibility if you think about it.
Well, it is, but when you're doing it in a new way, it becomes so comfortable, so emotionally freeing, and so valuable to everyone you come in contact with. It's because you yourself are correcting yourself, taking care of yourself, managing yourself, guiding yourself, directing yourself in a new way to be able to be the inspiration, to be the end conclusion of that you don't need a title or entitlements to be able to hold that position. And that if someone wanted to give you that title or entitlement, is that not only will it not go to your head, but you will just have that as an extra icing on the cake, part of your day, part of your work experience. The reason why people become CEOs or critically emotionally overwhelmed in their life is because they have reached the highest plateau that one can as an employee of that company to be the figurehead of the destruction for which everyone sees from the top down. Because when you get to the top, you have to make certain cuts. At the top, you have to have extra pressure added to you to be able to make sure that the finances are right. At the top, you have to be able to make sure that everything is going smoothly from the top down, right?
Yeah, this relates a lot to one of the lies that I talked about in the video on my blog, A New Way with Noah, called 3 Lies That We've All Been Told. I believe it was the first lie, and that is you have to become something. The world tells you you have to become something. You can't just grow into who you authentically are and who you're meant to be. You have to become a CEO. But what happens if you lose that position? What happens if the economy goes kaput? And so with that, your entire company goes kaput. Do you lose every sense, every ounce of self-worth and value that you see in yourself because you no longer have that thing that you've strived to become for so many years? Can you, in fact, have a perspective where instead of losing your own self-worth along with the CEO position, you hold on to your self-worth and you start building in a new way.
Yeah, because when you do it right, the authentic CEO is championing, I will say that again, being the champion of the employment opportunity, allowing other people below you to be able to feel like a CEO because you are making them feel like the most important person that they could ever feel.
Yeah, and along with that, you're probably providing a lot of opportunities that someone who didn't care about their lives wouldn't provide them.
Because it's a natural part of that transition, right?
Yeah, I mean, it all has to just do with giving a care about them.
Right. So I'd much rather be a champion at empowering others,
right,
versus having critical emotional outcomes that only create more negative situations and cause other people to have despair, right?
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, is that you want to always make sure that you have no titles so that you can remain humble and need no entitlements. The moment that you keep chasing the almighty dollar, the farther away it becomes. This is very, very financially critical for the listeners that listen to this podcast, because everyone chases a $20 an opportunity, a $30 an hour opportunity, a $40 hour opportunity. What if you stop chasing that hourly wage? The next step is to be able to get into a salaried position, right?
Yeah, well, I was thinking you got to start chasing the $1 million self.
Well, correct. But in order to be able to get there, is that you have to know how to fulfill each position getting there, right?
Have you ever heard the term, I feel like $1 million?
Yeah.
That's what I was referring to.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. But how can you feel like $1 million when you only have $20 in your pocket?
Well, it's a little more difficult if you don't know how.
Because if you can't expand your mind, if you can't expand your education, if you can't expand your awareness of how great you are, then the greatness can't naturally come to you. But if you focus on the things that you like, the things that you love, the things that you value and appreciate and respect most in and out of life, you have this natural stepping transition that as you are taking each and every step going to that place of work, you're stepping into a new foundation of completeness of character of who you are. So by the time you literally reach for the door should automatically open up, because you become the opportunity that everyone else sees in you, because you are you. You are not just a programmed puppet trying to be able to sustain an income and a lifestyle that most people wouldn't fathom or imagine to want to be there in the first place.
Right. Well, it comes with a lot of other man-made molds that you're trying to conform into, and you just can't do it. You can't change your physical shape, at least not to a certain point,
right,
where you're fitting into a mold that looks like someone completely different than you.
Right.
So I think we can learn a lot from a lot of people in this world, in other countries especially. People are in poverty all around the world, but in many cases, these impoverished people have higher levels of mental health than populations here in America that aren't living in that extreme poverty. Mental health issues, mental health problems, you could say, are very rampant and all over the place here in America as well as other first world countries. But you look in these third world countries and you see they don't have the same problems in a lot of cases.
Well, the bottom line is that when you remove you as far as being the obstacle, when you no longer have the downtime to watch TV because it becomes a controlled environment overseas, when you stop yourself from hanging around, socializing, and being with the wrong people, when you stop all these procrastinating systems that the government puts into place, it's amazing how your environment changes because of it. It's a natural law of the land. So, in referencing other people from overseas, a lot of people don't even have TV. A lot of people hardly have radio.
Right.
So you wonder why other people are succeeding is because some people hardly have books. But the bottom line is that what you place before you becomes you. So if the TV set is in front of you, you are being programmed. If you have the internet in front of you, you're being programmed. If you have the radio in front of you, you're being programmed. But if you are in control of the remote of your life, you then have the power and the empowerment to be able to change the channel of your programming.
Exactly.
You don't have to be able to watch things that don't feed you, things that don't alter you, things that don't change you in a positive way.
Right.
And so if you're going to be able to hold on to a remote, ask yourself what programming it is that you're wanting to be able to put into your psychological bag of tricks, right?
Yeah, and you may have had the experience. We talked about it in Mental Protection and Clarity, one of the earlier podcasts on this channel, where if you watch a horror movie, for example, some of those images are twirling around in your mind to the point where you are almost running up the steps, turning the lights off real quick and jumping into bed, covering yourself up, because you're having anxiety from that horror movie you just watched. It's not as if as soon as you turn off the TV, those images aren't still swirling around, affecting you in some way, shape, or form in your mind. I mean, it goes all the way to kids having extended periods of having nightmares because of a certain image that they saw on a TV that their parents were watching. They weren't even really watching it. So it can be really life-changing, life-affecting, so you got to be very careful with that kind of stuff. We also talked about that to an extent in the authentic messages video that we did. So we'll have those in the description of this podcast for you to connect with. One other thing I want to mention in regards to people who don't own a TV and people who don't own a radio, don't have all those distractions in front of them, their priorities are completely different. They're not looking to be entertained as much. And when they do get that entertainment, that source of entertainment usually involves other children, other people in their community. They also have a greater need to be able to look out for their family at a very young age, especially if they're in poverty, especially if they're in a starving country. So that can contribute to that. Everyone says that, you'll hear many people say, rather, that their mental health issues can't be changed. It's a brain chemical imbalance. But these people in other countries of the same age have less of a statistic of those same types of disorders. Depression, suicide is a big one here in a first world country. Yeah.
And the biggest thing is that in overseas countries that a lot of the things that we take for granted, they don't have. Mm-hmm. When they turn on the TV, they immediately acknowledge that it's just entertainment. When they turn on the radio, they automatically acknowledge that it's just entertainment. When they get on the internet, they realize that it's just entertainment. None of these three are a form of programming that Americans have on a daily basis, being able to spend 2 to 4 to 6 hours after work getting programmed, getting conditioned, getting completely self-absorbed into other people's lives, into other people's stories, into other people's falsities that appear real.
Right.
And then they get into a situation emotionally, physically, and spiritually. I'm not there where they're at.
Yeah.
I don't have this that they have.
Yeah, I mean, that went all the way back to magazine covers. You know, people seeing the models on magazine covers and wishing they could have that. Photoshop has really done a number.
Right. And so understand this, is that if you can be photoshopped in a magazine, you can be completely programmed on TV. You can be completely reprogrammed in a radio station, and you can be definitely overwhelmed with the internet, because none of these three are what positive people resonate with, let alone want to spend a great deal of time at, because it takes you nowhere. Then it adds all the rest of the pressure that you didn't need in your life to be able to see how other people are doing, or how other people buy and sell and trade goods. And because you don't have the money, then it requires the depression, the anxiety, the fear, all these factors, when simply, in order for you to get on the internet, you had to empower a button to turn on a computer, to then to be able to select through a icon on what it is that you're wanting to then view, right?
Yeah, a menu of what you want to consume.
Right.
So this is all very good content. So we're going to go over a few minutes here on this podcast over our time limit here. So I just wanted to mention that a great supplement to what Kevin's talking about here is if you learn about brainwaves and how being in different brainwave states at different times throughout our day affects us differently, affects how we absorb information and programming differently. A lot of times when we're watching TV, and I'll have the brainwaves video, by the way, in the description for you as well. But a lot of times when we're watching TV, that's an activity that doesn't need a lot of our direct attention and focus. So we're not in a what's called a high beta brainwave state during those activities, which is more of an active brainwave state that we're in usually when we're in conversation like you and I are right now, Kevin.
Yes.
You're usually dropping down to a more mellow type of alpha brainwave state in which it's much easier to absorb the frequencies being dished into your head, dished into your eyeballs. And people think all the time that if it's not touching me physically, if it's not having a direct physical contact with me, it really can't affect me all that much. But you wouldn't believe the extent that some of these TV programs I've seen have affected me.
Yes.
Not even from me having a direct focus on the programming that I just allowed in my being, but more of a subliminal type of effect that may even show up in dreams sometimes and affect us from there.
Absolutely.
So you got to be very cautious in what you're programming your kids with, what you're allowing your kids to watch, and don't think it's I'm being too strict of a parent. It can't be all that harmful. It's a kids show. Well, a lot of kids shows really don't have all that great of programming within them. You got to be cautious. Nowadays, there's some controversy with school systems and what school systems are allowing into their curriculums. So, it comes from all different types of angles, and this world isn't necessarily on our side all the time, Kevin. So I think people don't really realize that a lot, but it's true. There can be bad influences not only in your kids' lives but in your life coming from places you never expected them to come from. Mm-hmm. So it's all just about having perspective, having the precautions in place to be able to avoid the pitfalls that the world will throw at you.
Yeah. So when you touched on perspective, this whole thing that we're talking about is exactly that. Because when you wake up in the morning, when you have lunch in the afternoon, you have dinner in the evening, you have 3 meals that feed you. But what are you feeding your mind? What are you feeding your body? And then what are you feeding your soul? And if those 3 things don't make you whole and complete as a person, then there's something amiss within what you're doing. So when it comes to habits and routines, it really becomes simple. You only put in what you truly believe is true. The diary, the journaling, all that helps make that questionable things a known truth. So you might feel, you might think, you might believe in a certain thing in a certain way, but education, experience, and knowledge then will take you much further and much higher than your perspective view on something that makes you unwhole, incomplete too. So, what do you need to do? In the morning, you need to be able to have positive self-talk. In the afternoon, you need to have positive self-talk.
And a reflection.
Yep. And then in the evening, you need to have positive self-talk, reflection, and then belief in what you're doing so that in the morning, when you repeat it all over again, you are in control of the remote of your life, and you are starting to program the very essence of who you are with God in every way, but in a new way each day.
Amen and hallelujah. That's a great closer to this episode. Kevin, thank you for your words of wisdom and all your valuable insight on how to apply being the example setter and turning yourself into more of an example setter with the like, love, value, appreciate, and respect technique, reflecting on those 5 ideas and what you like, love, value, appreciate, and respect in life. And then reflecting on that throughout the day, going to bed with a plan for the next day so that you don't have to start from square zero, get up and not have anything to be excited about, but you can wake up excited and actually follow through with that. Start by making your bed. It's very helpful. It's a military technique, and I know you just love those, Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Omnipresent Information Connection, and we will meet you on the next podcast.
This has been another life-enhancing, authenticated podcast aired by the OIC and brought to you by the faithful OIC sponsors and contributors. Please tune in every week and subscribe to our podcast. And while you're there, explore our website with all the posts, videos, and podcasts that we have created with you in mind. While you're on the journey through our website, you will see our Patreon page where you can become a faithful contributor yourself with the freedom to be a part of our team today. Thank you.